So 16 months ago, Kevin Paget called me with the idea of trekking to the world's highest mountain, to the base of the world's highest mountain, as a means of raising funds for the Elisha Foundation to expand our work to the disabled globally and on a local level. And that the unique part of that was that we would take a disabled person with us on that trek. Eli was immediately the first one I thought of, my own son, who has Down syndrome, who's 15 years old. So Tamara and I, my wife, and I talked about it, and we prayed about it, and we consulted with Eli's physicians about it, and we got their go-ahead. And then to just see our community support come in, his high school class being super supportive, the entire high school and the high school staff being supportive at Bend High, family, friends, everybody was so excited about this adventure for him, and it spurred him on even more to where he was now invested in it and now pulling me along, and we began to train so that he would be not just medically cleared, but that physically we could have his fitness at a level where he could handle the extreme altitudes and the length of the trail over 70 miles. We still had anxiety, we still had those concerns. He's our son, what would we be subjecting him to? But he continued in his training to develop at a level that showed us that we needed to not stand in his way and that our expectation needed to be that he could attempt this.
I trained with Dad, which to get out of hell from my body. God made me too. God did.
I think from the very beginning we recognized the parallel between just the relentless quality of the trek itself and what families who are experiencing disability go through on a day-to-day basis.
I've heard parents talk about caring for their children with disabilities and how they wake up every morning and think, in their darkest days, today I have to climb Mount Everest again.
And so we set about laying the groundwork to try to put together a team of people to go and do this. And in the process started to expand our vision for it beyond just being a fundraiser, as being an opportunity to show the infinite worth of the disabled, to show what the disabled can do, and to use that as a platform also to show people the significance of the work we do in working with the disabled. And slowly but surely the pieces started to fall together. Our team came together.
It's a fantastic ministry. They're doing amazing things that just aren't being done by anybody. And so I thought this would be a great way to, one, experience the Himalayas and see Everest and do those very fun, adventurous things, but then also raise awareness and money for a really great cause that's being underserved right now.
So the trek begins in Lukla, Nepal, which is at 9,000 feet. And then for the next 16 days, we'd be trekking village to village to village. And not knowing how Eli's body would respond physiologically to altitude and to the rigors of the trail, we decided we would treat each day as a summit experience, as a summit day for him. Whether or not he made it to base camp, each day that he could make it would be a summit for us, and that's what our objective for him would be.
One thing that really struck me, and I didn't expect to happen to the extent that it did, is just how critical it was on this trek for our team to develop a community around Eli.
It's very humbling to see our team come alongside him and help him. Everybody at some point helped Eli get up that trail. Everybody at some point encouraged him and took time to talk him up the trail.
This sort of new introduction to Eli and disability is just really, it's blown me away. And it's really cool to see him and to try and figure out ways that I can encourage him and get him riled up and get him out of that kind of funk when he gets in, when he's like, I just want to stop. For him, it's about relationships, the people on this trip, and that's such an amazing reminder of what matters in this life. Tell me one more time.
Hey.
Where we're going.
Base camp.
Base camp? And what's that mountain? What's the mountain called?
Mount Everest.
Yeah.
It did.
High five, buddy.
Eli has just blown my mind. Just his endurance and the way he's pushed through so many obstacles so far to get where we are now is just crazy. And he's encouraging me. I mean, climbing 3,000 feet in one day at this altitude is just physically is one of the hardest things. It is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And to see Eli push through that and seem like he's in better condition than what I was last night, I think it's just so cool.
I've just been really encouraged by his perseverance and his steadfastness and his optimism and just his spirit of joy in really tough situations. Like, he might be having a hard time, but he has a spirit of joy that's underneath that gets him to take another step.
It was so amazing to watch him each day on the trail. He ended up being the one leading us. A lot of us got sick, a lot of us got emotionally drained, a lot of us got just physically worked over, but Eli was leading the charge every day. And the interesting picture that was of kind of turning the tables, and it was Eli being the only disabled one among us, being the one who was taking over the trail and leading us, while each of us are sitting back experiencing our own level of disability.
The Everest Base Camp trek is a really challenging trek. We spent over a week above 14,000 feet, and it was tough. We had a really tough time, you know, day in and day out doing that much trekking. But, you know, as a team, we really had a great time together, and there was a lot of joy and a lot of fun that came out of it, because we established this community around Eli in order to make this a great success.
As we walked the ridgeline along the glacier, heading into the Khumbu Glacier, the Khumbu Icefall, where Everest Base Camp is, and we're staring at these 20,000 foot plus mountains all around us, and then look down and know that we're just 20 minutes away from reaching the summit, the one that we hoped we would get to, but we didn't know if we would. So many thoughts come to mind as I see my 15-year-old son, born with Down syndrome, born by what many cultures in the world would deem as a curse, be the most massive blessing, as literally thousands of people are following his every step. And as we saw God come through day in and day out through our team to establish his steps, for him to stand there and to hold that banner and to have that big smile on his face, that feeling of accomplishment for him and the pride that I had in him, the thankfulness I had to God that he had brought Eli there and that he was using Eli to be an example of God's glory in the midst of disability. As Jesus says in his own words, that the works of God were being displayed in my son. And for all of our team to be there, and everyone came by and gave Eli a hug. And stepping back and watching all that as a dad, taking all of that in, trying to frame it in words, trying to frame that memory was so difficult when you're sitting in the presence of the highest points in the world. The highest geography in the world is right there. And my son is standing in that spot where most of the world's population wouldn't think that he could be. It was truly humbling, and to see the impact that had on each team member and on all the people who have supported us is such a beautiful picture of the worth of those with disability and how God uses them, of how essential community is for the disabled. It was all by the grace of God, and it was all by the pursuit of 9 people working as a team to help him get there.
I think more than ever, it's just it's a really awesome reminder of what this life is really about, and how it's just so much more than being self-centered, and how it's about giving and giving out of, not just out of comfort, but giving until it hurts.
People who have very severe disabilities, they don't find their success in what they produce and what they can do. And so in working with kids with disabilities, that has made me completely rework what my definition of success is, and made me see how silly these expectations are that I have for myself.
It's a picture to me as well of the essential nature of what it is that the Elisha Foundation does. That was a snapshot of what we do locally and what we do abroad, of coming alongside God's people, helping them to engage the disabled where they're at, helping them to love them, helping them to reach deep into the hearts and lives of those impacted by disability, and look for those opportunities for God's glory to be displayed in the midst of that. We need your prayer. We need you to tell other people about what the Elisha Foundation does, and we need you to reach out to the disabled in your own communities, in your own backyard, in your own streets, in your churches, and to pursue them with Christ's love, not with pity, but with true tenderness and love.
Who gives you the strength to walk?
God!
Awesome.
Yes! Well done, Eli.
An amazing and inspiring story about a very special Oregon teenager. He's reached the base camp of Mount Everest, conquering more than a mountain.
A story from NBC's teenager with Down syndrome has done something no teenager like him has done before.
Eli just became the first American with Down syndrome to hike to the base of the highest mountain in the world.
The altitude there, more than 17,000 feet.
15-year-old Eli Reimer recently climbed the base camp of Mount Everest.
It takes more than a week of hiking just to get to base camp. It's about a 70-mile journey. And it makes Eli Reimer's accomplishment even more impressive.
What do you want people to learn from Eli's accomplishment?
Eli's life and the lives of those with disability have infinite worth, and they can attempt great things, and they can be used powerfully to impact their culture and to impact the world. Disability is not a limitation. It's not outside of the scope of God's goodness